Let's start with a little experiment this evening. Take a look at the apples on the screen and decide which one you would choose if you had to buy one right now. Now, if I told you that the left apple cost $1, the middle apple cost $2, and the right apple cost 50 cents, how does this change your choice? If I added another level of information, I told you that the left apple was certified organic, meaning it didn't use any pesticides while it was grown. The middle apple used pesticides fairly lightly, while the right apple was grown under heavy pesticide use. How does this change the way you view these three options? Another important environmental issue to consider with food production is water use, with 70% of the water that we use as human beings being consumed by agriculture. My research focuses specifically on water footprint, which is a measurement of how much water is used and polluted during a food item's life cycle, from the time it's grown until it's processed and it reaches your plate. Now, if I told you that the left apple had a water footprint of 110 liters, and the middle apple had a water footprint of 60 liters, and the right apple had a water footprint of 75 liters, does this change your choice in the way that you view your options? All of our food decisions have an environmental impact. However, our decisions are quite complicated. Even a seemingly simple choice like which apple to buy can become very difficult depending on the information that you're given and the order in which it's presented to you. And it's also important to remember the fact that environmental measurements and data are often believed to convince you to change your attitudes and your behavior and the way that you view environmental issues. However, the way we actually understand and use these scientific measurements like water footprint or carbon footprint has not been studied very thoroughly. My research focuses specifically on how people use water footprint measurements to make meal choices right here at the University of Calgary Dining Center. So I made some catchy posters with information about water footprint and actually the specific water footprint measurements of certain meals that they serve on campus at the Dining Center to see how these were received. And through my surveys and interviews, I found that in addition to students being stressed out and busy with their academic lives, a very significant barrier to their understanding and use of these water footprint measurements was that the data was not personally relevant to their lives. They didn't see environmental issues in terms of numbers or data. They saw them in terms that were more personal, like local food, or like waste or food packaging that they throw away. This doesn't mean that scientific measurements and research are not important for sustainability, but we also need to understand human values and what we all value and understand in terms of environmental issues, so that the scientific research that is done can actually impact our everyday lives. And so that hopefully through this research, we can understand values and beliefs about the environment, and that scientists and the public can work together to achieve a more sustainable future. Thank you.